Welcome to Creators Cafe. I'm your host, Jessica Payne. I'm a performer, performance coach, and multi-hyphenate creator. I'm going to be bringing you conversations with some of my favorite creators where we talk about the sublime and the specifics of the creative journey. So grab a drink, get cozy. Let's go. My guest, Kaylee Hawley, is an illustrator and art teacher. She's represented by Radish House Agency, where she's working on multiple projects, including 2 children's books. She is also working on her brand, Ducks in a Row, whose mission is to create and sell products based on organization, creativity, and positivity. And Kaylee is an elementary and middle school art teacher. I wish I was so lucky to have had her. She works with artists at El Sol Science and Arts Academy and at Blue Sky Academy of Art. She is a positive force of nature, and her illustrations are beautiful and uplifting, and I encourage you to check them out, especially if you have young artists or elementary or middle school teachers in your life. Please enjoy an uplifting conversation with Kaylee Hawley. Welcome to Creators Cafe, Kaylee Hawley. Cheers.
Cheers.
What are you drinking today?
I am drinking a latte with oat milk. Oat milk has recently changed my life.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, thanks to my husband. He showed it to me, and I can't drink coffee the same way anymore.
Oh, that's perfect. And it was good because this one I got from a place called the One Hotel that's up here on Sunset.
Oh, okay.
And my friend Gil works there, who, shout out to Gil. He's a listener, he's an actor, and works at the cafe there. He's
how
really
special.
sweet. So, yeah, so this is compliments of Gil.
Delicious. Yeah, thank you, Gil.
Okay.
Perfect.
So, I know you through your husband, Luca, but I'm so delighted to get to actually chat with you.
Yes.
I mean, we partied recently for Halloween.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to get to know you better. How do you think of yourself as a creator?
What a good question. I'm an illustrator for children's books and an art teacher for TK through 8th grade. Those are like my main 2 titles.
Great, great. And how long have you been illustrating versus thinking of yourself as a visual artist? Because I know that's kind of a step and kind of a specialization. So where did you make that change?
I remember in high school knowing I was going to be like following my art path, but not knowing exactly what that meant.
Yeah.
And then, so looking into colleges, I went to go visit Art Center, and they had these rooms for the different arts, and just you can get an idea. And I was like, okay, let's go into graphic design. And there was just like a magazine on the table, and I was so lost. I was like, I don't get what I'm supposed to see here.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, it's between that or the illustration. And when I walked into that door, it like clicked, and I was like, I'm an illustrator. I understand what the art is here. I admire what these artists are doing. I want to be like them. And it was like, okay, I'm an illustrator. So I went to college for that, and it's just, I never questioned it. That was my path.
That's so fantastic.
Yeah.
When you went to the art center, was this at your college or was this somewhere else? Is this a specific art center that you're talking about?
The Art Center of Pasadena. It's like a college that my professor and like mentor, pretty much, she went to that school. And so it was kind of like a college hunt. It was just like looking down my different options. And Art Center is beautiful in Pasadena, but I think I wanted to be a little bit closer, and I went to Cal State Fullerton instead.
Okay.
But yeah.
Is the art center something that people could just go to? Like, could I go there, or do you take classes there, or how does the art center work? I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, so it's a college, but
oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I know the name is misleading, but
got it. Okay, so it was kind of, you were going to look at colleges.
Yes.
And
yes.
I just love the idea of like behind door number 2, you can look at this kind of art, and behind door number 3, this.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay. So up until that point, what kind of art had you practiced, had you been drawn to, and what got you started on that path?
Yeah, so I guess when I started, it was just like regular visual art. So just doing chalk pastels, watercolor, everything traditional for my art classes in high school. And then I was doing like commission work on my own in high school. So that was exciting.
Incredible. How did you
Thank
start that?
It was funny. So I was just doing it for friends and family that knew, what I did. And then in my 12th year, a senior year, I had a government teacher who had us go into groups and he's like, okay, you're doing a whole business plan, like sell us. And so I sold my class on my art, and I actually got customers, including some teachers. So I just had like a big business spike from that class project, which was super nice and like exactly what my teacher like wanted us to gain from it. And I just kept going. So even after graduating, people were still reaching out like, I need this for my mom. Like, can you, draw me and my sibling? And I was like, sure. And that's kind of like how I got started. So it was very like fine arts, just kind of recreating pictures.
Okay.
But then later on finding my style and like knowing illustration is what I want to do.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. Okay. So talk to me about how you found your style, because I love your style. It's so distinct and fun and warm and a little saucy. It's so great. Also, I have to tell you, my husband, Kyle, like we both like your art, and he's always a sucker for animals, and so it's right up his alley for your stuff. And you have a print of a giraffe on one site, and it looks like it's very worried, and it is his favorite thing he's seen in a long time. So I love
That's so nice. I love to hear that.
Yeah. So how did you go about developing your style and making that turn from more representative art and fine art into your style, which, first of all, how would you describe it? Because there's a very distinct through line in your color palette and in your perspective that I really admire.
Oh my
How
gosh.
did you find that?
Thank you so much, first of all. And one of my favorite questions, because I think artists are always going through that of like, what is my style? It's like, and you're figuring that out, as you're growing up, and it's just immediate, like, who are you? And who are you going to present yourself as to the world for the rest of your life? And it's just this scary concept, and you're like trying to just figure out who you are, but then you have to broadcast it to everybody and like stick to it. But the truth is just keep drawing. That's how you find your style. Like, don't ever stop or just kind of like wonder, just keep drawing. And I reflect too of like, when am I the happiest when I'm drawing? And whatever that style comes out, I'm like, I guess that's who I am. And it's just a very simple, very cheerful, I just draw what makes me happy. And I like to move on to like the next concept. I don't like to stay on one image for too long. That's why it's just kind of simple, flat, and then really story-based to show that happy emotion, and then I like to go on to the next one. So just from drawing a lot, I was starting to see my style. And another thing is that other people can see your style more than you sometimes. Yeah. Because we would do like our gallery walks in college, so you just kind of present your stuff and we talk about it in front of the class. And sometimes, our stuff is up there with other work and people can tell who did whose. And you're like, how did you know that was mine? You're like, I'm starting to see a style, and you just get relieved. You're like, you see it?
That makes a lot of sense, right? I don't see it because you're too, somebody's described it as having your nose too close to the picture, so you can't see what it looks like fully.
Yes, that's a great way to describe it. But it was just like, I don't know, a sense of relief, or like just so much stress-free of like, I figured it out.
That's so great.
Everybody figures it out in a different stage of life too. And the important thing is that your style should always be growing. It doesn't just stop and you're like, that's where I am. It's like, no, as an artist and as a human, you should always be growing, and it'll just progress into what it's supposed to be and blossom along with you. But it still keeps that something consistent because it's still coming from you. But yeah, don't be afraid to change. If you're in the same style, I think it's time to test some things out, find more inspiration, and slowly keep progressing. Yeah. So
a couple of elements of your style that I really like. One is really specific, that you have a lot of characters with kind of blushing cheeks.
Yes.
And hearts on their knees.
Yeah.
This And it's just a really sweet through line that also feels very much like you when we talk in person. How did you discover that particular aspect? Was it just repetition and you found it and you liked it, or did somebody point that out? How did that one come about?
Yeah, I think it was just drawing what makes me happy. And I'm like, I need to fit a heart in here. It needs to express more love. And I like the warmth. And so it's kind of like in those joints, like fingertips or knees, elbows. I want to add just a little bit more color and pink. And I just like the heart through line. And the blushing cheeks. I think it's a great depiction of that warmth and cheerfulness and emotion that I want other people to feel when they look at it. And it just makes me happy. I'm like always excited. I'm like, now I get to do that part.
That's so fantastic. And I want to say thank you because you have like such a diverse range of characters too. So you've got a lot of animals, but you also have, like I am a curvy woman. And so seeing like the fun, sexy mermaid who's got like soft curves is really beautiful because you don't just see that in illustration very often.
I love that you pointed that out too. My friends have also pointed that out, that they just appreciate it. And it was just like, I wasn't even doing that for that purpose. It's just like, oh, there's so much fun to draw.
Well, and I think if you're in a like healthy, open mindset, hopefully that is where you're coming from. So I just want to point that out and say thank you and keep doing that, please, because it's really sweet.
Of course.
So your shop that you opened is called Ducks in a Row, and there's little baby ducks in a row and they all have characters, and it's an online shop and it's also on Etsy, and I saw that you also had a pop-up recently here at Melrose. So tell me about how you decided to create that shop and what your hopes and dreams for that moving forward might be.
Thank you. So I think it was just always a dream of just like seeing illustrators that I love and I'm so inspired by, and that's what they're doing. It's just like they create their own shop, and I'm like, that's where I see my future. Like that's just brings me so much joy to just draw what makes you happy, and like just completely, it's a courageous thing, I think, because you're totally just being out there like, this is who I am. Do you love it enough to buy it? Instead of like commission work where people are like requesting exactly what they want and you helping achieve that for them.
Right.
This is what makes me happy. Buy it if you like it. And I'm just so happy I did it because it's my favorite passion project. Drawing what makes me happy, and then meeting all these wonderful people that also find the joy in it, and seeing that firsthand of people like getting so excited and smiling, or having them like jog back a good memory. That just alone makes it worth it, just meeting those people. So that was great at Melrose Trading Post. That's where I had my first pop-up. And so just meeting those people just like makes it so worth it. And it just inspires me to keep going. So yeah, that's the dream of just like mailing out a bunch of orders, being surrounded by what I love, and just getting that out there in the world.
Yeah. Do you do all of your own kind of production and shipping at this point, or do you do it through a drop shipping service, or how does that just technically work as a shop?
I know right now I'm still like figuring it out, and so I'm doing all my shipping.
Whew, that's hard.
Yeah. But then like, getting my stickers printed out. I know some artists do that at home, but because I'm a teacher also, I'm just like, I'd rather just have it shipped to my house and it's already ready to be sold.
Great.
So, yeah.
Do you have kind of an ideal customer in mind of someone, is there a type of person that you think especially would be drawn to your work, or some audience that they're buying for? How would you describe maybe who your shop is perfect for?
Yeah, and it's strange, but I think it's just people like me. Just like the people that respond so well, it's like almost someone super similar, and it's like I'm finding good friends like that in a way.
Oh, that's cool.
But
just with specifically with maybe your upbeat cheerfulness.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like runs through your work.
I see like teachers really appreciate it, which is kind of cool because I'm like, I'm a teacher, and then
How
it
did you
just
know?
like
Yeah.
it's like no wonder you like it. Or what's really cute is that like at Melrose is you see all the people walking by, and kids especially will just like drop what they're doing and like run this way, and I'm like, yes, kids like my stuff.
Yes. Oh, and kids I performed for kids for years. I did children's tours. And what I love about them is they're so honest.
They are.
And it's scary how brutal they are, because if they don't like it, like they will just leave, or they'll say this is boring.
Yeah.
But then if they like it, they really mean it. So it's pretty powerful.
It is. So it's the biggest compliment because I'm a children's book illustrator. So it's just like, just makes
Seeing
like,
them in the
I'm doing
world.
something right. Yeah.
Great. That's actually the next thing I wanted to talk about. So with your children's book illustrations, first of all, how did you get into that space? Because that's kind of a dream space that a lot of people don't get into for a decade or more in their career. So was it getting an agent first? Was it putting together possibilities for your portfolio? What was your path for that?
Yeah. So first of all, I would say, getting your portfolio together and just putting together work that you are interested in doing. Like, don't just do work because it's impressive and like people might like it. It's like you might get hired on that and then spend months doing something you really don't like doing.
Smart.
So just show off, what you're really good at and you enjoy doing, so that you're showing people like, yes, sign me up for that job. So that's what I was working on for a while. But then I think it's super important also to just like keep your mind open, and anybody can help you, because it's just like kind of meant to be, like the people that just like come into your life, you just, let the universe like bring what it's supposed to bring you. And it was my college career that like, that connected me to people, and it's like they appreciated my work ethic and how professional I was, even just from each class. They just noticed that, and they were like, okay, because it was like through that trail that I found my agency, and so it was so nice to like kind of know somebody who runs the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so I applied and expressed that I'm very interested, and kind of like knew people that were working there already and heard great things. And so then I got signed up in 2021, and that's like what kicked everything off. It's a wonderful company, Radish House.
Great.
And they like do classes on their own, like over Zoom. So it was like I was continuing growing my portfolio with them. And then when we built like that stronger portfolio and relationship, then they were just like, we want to get you work, and just kept emailing me like, it's kind of like an audition. Like I'll tell Luca like how he's sending in a self-tape, I'm like reading the story, and then they'll ask for like illustrate this spread, like, or design this character, so that they can see how you see it.
Yes.
And so then I'll spend like a day on that, and then see if they like it enough to hire me. So it's kind of the same like audition process.
Okay. I wondered how that worked. That's fascinating. So if you were given a story and you had to illustrate a character for it, what would the process be like for that? Like, I understand you would read the story. What are the other steps? What would you do kind of from 0 to 1 for that?
Yeah. So reference photos. Like gather all of your inspiration, like what kind of art style, what kind of like colors is really popping out to you while you read this, and then I just kind of collect those elements, and I'm like, this is how I see the character. Yeah. Great.
And technically, I'm kind of interested in the nerdy details. What do you illustrate in? And how does your process look like for that? And then when you send it, do you just send it as an attachment, or what does that look like technically?
Okay, so from the very beginning, I always start off on paper. I can't do a rough sketch on an iPad. I have to feel the pencil and paper, and I feel like I get my best work from there.
Great.
And then do do all my drawing there. Then I take a photo with my iPad, and then I'm in Procreate the whole time. I know there's like other programs to use. I've heard great things about Adobe Fresco too that's coming.
Okay.
Like really up and coming, and I want to like play into that and use that more. But right now, Procreate's my favorite. It's just so easy to use. Illustrate it all there, and then usually, send the file, or I send the file to my agency, but we also have like just a normal Google Doc, and they can see my process. So I'll upload my sketches and along the way, so that if there's anything that needs to be changed, I'm not giving them the whole completed painting at the end, and they're like, can you change something? So it's very transparent, which is so wonderful, because it's just open communication, and it's like, I know if I'm going down the right direction, or if they want it a slightly different way. It's a great process, and it's just Google.
That's
Google
so cool.
Doc.
I appreciate that they can kind of check in the middle of the process, so that you can see that you're not wasting your time for some direction, because in an audition situation, we don't have that anymore with self-tapes. It's you just send it, and that's the last you hear most of the time. You don't get notes like you would if you were in the room. So it's cool that they're building in a way to do that as part of the process. I'm a little jealous, and that's a smart idea. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. So then when you get a job for one of those books, how does that look? Like, do you have months to do it, or weeks, or what's the process, and how do you go about illustrating a book?
Yeah. So it depends. They will be upfront about the project, like if they need it right away, or we have time to really develop this together. So I just illustrated my first children's book, and it's in the process of getting published now, which is really exciting. And it was so meant to be, because the book is called Luca Magoo, Don't Eat the Glue. And my husband's name is Luca, so I was like, I know this character.
And you're an art teacher, so don't eat the glue.
Yes, and I'm an art teacher. It was just all the pieces came together so perfectly for my first book. So that process was amazing. We actually had like the author with us most of the time, so she could, see how I understand the book, and we could have conversations together to develop these images. It was really great. And I had plenty of time, because they understood I was an art teacher as well. So, they gave me all the time, and it was a wonderful process just to get that together. Great teamwork, and so in that case, I had months to develop the character and all the different, because a standard children's book is 32 pages.
Okay.
So that could be, 32 images, and developing, the world and all the different characters. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. So it works out if you have months to really give it your best. Yeah.
Do you find that when you're working with an author, because it's a children's book, the text isn't going to have the level of descriptions that maybe someone who's adapting an existing novel into a movie would have a lot of imagery to work with? So you were able to work with the author, so I'm sure that helped. And then kind of how do you develop the world and the color scheme? How do you think about that?
Yeah, so another reason I love my agency is that it's really not all on your own, because some other children's book agencies are very like, you do the whole thing by yourself, which is what some people might like. I love to hear other people's thoughts, or just so, and especially for my first book. So they're super helpful in just suggesting colors, not telling me what to do, but they're like, I kind of see it in these colors, or in this style, or I can just ask them questions. Just having that open communication is important to me, because then I feel a lot more confident down the road, instead of constantly questioning, did I make the right decision?
And it is going to be a collaborative process, just because you're working with an author anyway, and the agency. So that's cool that you get to build that into the process of creating it.
Yes, so it's like a whole teamwork, working on these decisions. I have most of the say, which is great too, all that creative freedom. So it just works out in the end. Yeah.
That's exciting. Do you know when that book will be published?
No clue. I have to get back to my agency and ask. I've just been on to the next project. So
okay. What's the next project?
The next project is really cool. So my agency is what's the word? Not founded probably, but like centered. Maybe that's how you say it. Centered in Saudi Arabia.
Oh,
and
gotcha.
So,
Yeah, I saw it was dual cities kind of
Yes.
with Los Angeles. Yeah, so it's
Yes.
established there, and then
Yes.
there's the Los Angeles
branch.
Okay.
Yeah, and they are putting together this really cool book series of recipes from the different areas around there, and just using a collection of artist styles to share these recipes and like little comics, and just kind of really show what that location is all about through these different artists, and unify it all with a similar color palette. So it's a really great idea, and it's so nice that it's like other artists working together. So I'm just like assigned like this one spread, and then I can just do that for a time, and it's like a fast, easy, instead of doing the whole book on your own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So you're part of a collection, but you also get to have a distinct job and then step away, which is helpful when you've got another job.
Yes. So I'm like, oh, you just need one page? Love it.
Love this. Excellent. That's so cool. Nice. Do you have any other projects coming up with your agency, or you're just always submitting?
So it's great. So when I had the book, they were like, okay, let's hold off on other projects so you can just focus on that.
Yeah.
And then this one's a shorter project. So it's just kind of like they manage your time also. So they know like, oh, she's busy with a project. We won't ask her for help right now.
Yeah.
Like sending in an audition.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like that. I appreciate it. So then I'm not like, too overwhelmed, and like it's really nice how they take care of us. So yeah, right now I'm just focusing on this because I have other things on my plate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like how it's organized like that.
You are an art teacher.
Yes.
And I am so jealous of your students because I've seen your methodologies, I've seen their work, I've seen in your website the level of care of the scaffolding and mindset and everything that you put into that. And I am just so jealous of like 5th grade me that didn't have you as an art teacher. It's probably good because then I might have been an artist and not an actor, but it's fine. So tell me about what got you started down the path of teaching, and where you're physically teaching, and kind of what you're thinking about that right now.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm in college and I'm majoring in illustration, and one of the requirements was to do an internship. And it's kind of hard to get an internship with illustration because there's, several studios close by, but everybody in animation usually gets those. So I saw that teaching qualifies for that class requirement. And this was like in 2018, I think. And I just had the best time working with children. I know that I've like loved kids, like, with like young cousins at family gatherings, like I'm usually hanging out with them. But this, teaching art for these kids was just so fulfilling and gave me like so much purpose and so much happiness and so much inspiration because I'm a children's book artist. And now I'm spending all my time with children, and it's like, it's just a full circle. And so that class, right after I added teaching, so I double majored.
Oh, okay, great.
Yes, so I have a degree in both, and it was also like, I was really reflecting, and I was like, for me, it felt selfish to just be an artist. Like, I was like, thinking I've had such a wonderful life. Like, I'm so grateful. I practice gratitude every day, and it's like, am I just gonna continue living this best life and not give back? Like, I'm like, how can I help people? It's like I've had such a great life so far that it's such a privilege to just be an artist. It's so wonderful. So I felt like this, this sense of guilt of like, I need to do more than just illustrate. Like, create great memories, like childhood memories is awesome, putting your art into that. But I was like, I know I can do more firsthand. And so teaching really put those two things together. So it's like I'm following my passion and what makes me happy, but it also makes me happy helping people out, especially children, and just combining my two loves, and it just worked out. It was like when I had those two things in my life, I was like, this is it. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I am very happy with my decision. Yeah, it's like
that's so perfect, and a lot of people never get that or don't get that for a lot later.
Yeah.
So it's exciting that you're kind of finding these landmarks so early in your journey.
Thank you.
Pretty great.
Yeah, it's great to feel that, because I do see people, who are still struggling to find where they really find happiness or a more fulfilling purpose. And so I'm, again, very grateful that it was so clear to me and that I can practice that.
Yeah. So when you teach, what are the big things that you're thinking about for passing on to the students for techniques or mindset or how they go about creating?
Oh, such a good question. I can just get fired up.
Yeah, do it. Get fired up.
Because, gosh, teaching is such a passion job. Like, if you're not into it, you're not supposed to be a teacher. Like, it just comes out of you. But yeah, being an art teacher is the best, because you are the fun teacher. Yeah. You are the safe space on campus. The kids just light up when they see you, and it's the therapy, it's the break in the day of you're finding yourself and expressing yourself, and practicing kindness in the classroom. I feel like in maybe other subjects you don't have that opportunity all the time, and then in art is such a great space to open up all these doors and really develop children as humans and just nice, creative humans. And I just love that that's my job, I get to make sure. So when I'm like thinking about my kids and like being mindful of what I want them to learn, I teach TK through 8th grade. So the more older they are, I try to teach them, like really good skills so that they are ready for high school, or if they're interested in doing it for a career, I'm like really focusing on that. And then for the younger classes, not everybody wants to be an artist. They are having fun, but I understand that's not what everybody's, here to do. So it's not like my main goal is to make sure that they become artists when they grow up. It's just giving them a fun time to learn something new, push themselves to learn healthy habits of like persisting in this project, that even though it's hard or they're not getting yet, it's like push through, put your time and effort into it, and you're going to surprise yourself. And it just makes it so worth it. Seeing them grow, but then having them understand that, and then watching them surprise themselves and gain confidence. You can just see it in their faces. And they like help each other out and like support each other. Like when we have gallery walks, each student has to present and like practice speaking in front of people and defending their ideas and their styles.
How young of students do you do that with?
Start at the very beginning. They're 4.
I love it.
They are so cute, and you just get to dive into their imagination, and you're like, what is this piece about? And it's a great long story sometimes. It's great. And so I have them start from very young so that it's no surprise when they're getting older that they have to keep doing this. And you just see them support each other and cheer them on. It's just such a great energy and like positive space. That's like my goal too, of maintaining that. It's the joys of an art teacher. I love it.
So if somebody who's listening has young kids in their life somehow, or for example, I have 3 young nephews. If I go hang out with them and I want to give them an art project that's just for little kids, what is maybe a project that you've found that's really fun that might be good to give them?
I think with the younger kids, I love giving them projects that really exercise their creativity, because as they get older, I totally see them lose that. And I think it's so important to keep that fun imagination and possibilities alive. So giving them a creative writing prompt. I mean, like drawing prompt, but kind of help them out. Like set up the stage, get their imaginations going, and then send them off and be like, draw it. Show me.
Can you give an example of what that might be like?
Ooh, it's so fun because I do this like every day. I have a long commute and I'm just like, okay, what am I going to have them like for warm up? Like just to spend 10 minutes on, just to get class started. And I just go very random, just like choose an animal and an activity sometimes. So I'm like, draw a family of mice baking a pie.
Oh.
And that's it. And then I'll write it on the board, and then maybe I'll be like, is the pie, like, are they baking one giant pie? Are they all little baby pies? Is it, what time of year is it? Is it, hot or cold outside? And I'm just, asking them all these questions so that their mind starts picturing it, and they're like, this is what's happening. And they just go for it and draw and tell stories. I mean, that's the key to illustration. That is like what I do. And I think it's such a human thing. It's like, that's why we love movies and reading books and just knowing, like putting the pieces together so we understand the story. That's who we are. And it's just keeping that interest and excitement, enthusiasm for telling stories in young kids.
I love that. The concept of animal doing an activity.
Yeah.
You could do that for years.
Yeah.
That could be a career.
And then they're like, I don't know what a sloth looks like. I'm like, that's why we practice. Like there's no right or wrong. Like just try it.
Yeah.
And it just also opens that door to like, you don't have to, put yourself down right away. Like, I don't know how to do it. And it's like, oh no, like enforcing that habit of like, I'll just try it out. Like, like don't be afraid of a bad drawing. Like that's why we practice.
That's such a great, simple quote that I love. Don't be afraid of a bad drawing. How many times have I been afraid of a bad drawing? I totally have.
Oh my goodness. I say it all the time because I can see as they get older, it happens because they get very self-aware of what other people think, or they're very hard on themselves, that they just kind of paralyze and they're like, I don't know. And they just don't move. And I'm like, just make a bad drawing. It's okay. Just have it out on paper, get it out. Even if it's bad, it was just fun and it's therapeutic to do something, just to create.
Yeah.
That reminds me of like something I read that I really loved, and it was, you will live a happy life if every day you create something, you learn something, and you do something physically. So it's like a goal for each. So just, go for a 30-minute walk. Listen to a podcast, expand your mind, and then just create something, try a new recipe or draw a picture, and just setting those little goals for yourself every day, just, you feel that accomplishment and that you're growing. And that's the whole point. That brought me to, and I wanted to add on to that, like I read that, but I think we should add, how can you be kind to somebody? Because that's like my goal in life, is just to spread kindness and happiness, if that's through my art or teaching. But it can be something small, from like, letting somebody merge into your lane in traffic, to how can I step in my friend's shoes and like help them out with something that they're going through, like putting in my time. Just add that onto your day, and I think that will also make you very happy and accomplished. Yeah.
I like to talk about, in the acting world, we talk about action verbs, and it's this idea of what are you doing to the other person. And so I would say kind of your core action verbs are things like uplift, cheer up, empathize with, things like that. And so I really love that you have an integrity across your work, that I see that in your work, but also in you as a human and how you talk and what you do. So I think that's part of the reason that you are so happy, is because you have that integrity and you both believe it, but also enact it.
Yes.
So that's pretty great.
Oh, thank you.
Something I wanted to talk about was just on your website, you not only have links to your store and your own work and kind of what you think about your work, but you also have a lot of resources for teachers and for art teachers, or maybe somebody that's working with young kids as artists. So I just want to call that out. So if anybody wants to check that out on your website, that's a really helpful resource. And I really liked, you had a couple of little illustrations of how kids could draw people. And you had like suggestions of here's, make one leg bigger than the other and have them doing an activity and don't be afraid to draw hands and things like that. And it's all of the things that I know as a young artist, I did the opposite of. So even just that little sheet, I learned something from. So I thought that was really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about how your travels have influenced your work. I love, you have this really cool map of Wales, where Luca is from, and his family's from Italy, and you have this gorgeous illustration of all of, the little pieces of Italy that you had from your travels there. How have your travels influenced your work overall?
So much. I think I am most inspired when I'm in nature or traveling, just being out in the world, especially to, new cultures or new patterns, designs, colors. It's like I am ready to draw. But I think that's another really important part about being an artist is expanding your visual library, especially for, visual artists. But I mean, the same in acting of just like getting to know all the different types of people and expanding your knowledge on that is so important so you can bring that to your art. And I think travel is just the best way to do that. Mm-hmm.
And you've got some upcoming travel to Wales too?
Yes,
so
I leave
going
next
back.
week.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
What are the kind of aspects of what travel brings to your art? Do you find it more with how you interact with the people or the colors or the shape of the landscape? Or how do you see it coming into your art most concretely?
Ooh, very good question. In different ways. I get inspired by, the way people dress. I just attention to detail like that much of like, oh, I've noticed this is like a trend here.
Yeah.
And then the architecture, the landscapes a lot because I'm so interested in nature, like even just the plants that you find more of or the flowers that are more popular there, especially the food to enjoy and to gain inspiration from. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Nice. Are there any people or quotes that have inspired you? You talked about one quote. Is there anything else or mentors or artists that you follow that come to mind?
So many. Like my whole Instagram is just inspiration. It's just like
that's smart. I'll put your Instagram in the show notes so people can look and see, maybe some of the people that you follow.
Yes.
And discover new people.
Yeah, it's so nice how I use it. It's just like a library of like, and then, again, when a project comes up, I'm like, oh, I want to use this person's, how they draw eyes or something and like put that in and collect all these different ideas to like make what I have in mind. But yeah, that's like my whole Instagram is just all these artists that I'm very inspired, getting so much inspiration from. The main one right now that comes to mind is Sophie McPike. She's based in Australia and just a beautiful artist. What I love most about her work is that she just shows her playfulness. It's so fun. It's like that freedom of like childish drawings, but with so much knowledge and like, discipline behind it. Like she knows what she's doing, but she, like has fun doing it and just like lets whatever happens. And I'm like, oh, I want to be like her. It's amazing. So I'm actually getting a tattoo tomorrow with one of her pieces.
Oh, that's so cool. Does she know
I'm
yet?
So excited. Yeah. So it's awesome that in her shop you can get a tattoo ticket. So it's like asking for permission and, paying them and, thanking them like, I want to use your work instead of just, stealing it.
Yeah.
Doing it that way. So I bought a tattoo ticket from her and she was the nicest person ever, just making sure I got what I wanted. And then, my appointment is for tomorrow.
That's so exciting.
I know, I'm very excited.
Is this your first tattoo or you've had other ones?
No, I've had another one.
Okay.
This will be my second, but it's in a more like noticeable place. And I'm just like, it's okay. I'm an art teacher.
I actually got my first this year and it's like such a big step, I think, whenever you are passionate about art, but also in a public-facing job, you really have to kind of walk that line.
Yes.
But I think it's really powerful, and I couldn't be more thrilled with mine.
Oh, good.
Oh, have so much fun with that.
Thank you.
That's so cool. So one thing we've talked about just a little bit that I'd like you to touch on is, how do you deal with things that scare you, and what scares you creatively or otherwise on a regular basis, and how do you kind of muster up the courage to step into that?
Yeah. I mean, this, for example, just being here, in front of a camera, that's new to me because, my art form is I'm alone. I draw and then I'll show you guys.
Yeah.
So to be in front of the camera, that was like new and exciting, and it, was scary at first, but it's like, oh, if it scares you, you should do it. So
You're doing great.
thank you. So yeah, I wanted to push myself and overcome those little fears, but I think it's just, sometimes you can be your worst enemy and you're really hard on yourself. Artists are always the hardest. Like, you are hardest on yourself. Yeah. For any art form, I think that's true. And so I think it's getting out of my head and being confident enough of like, oh no, you can have this, or you can do this. Or one of my favorite quotes is, it's better to say, oh well, than what if. And
I like that so much better than like, it's better to beg forgiveness than ask permission. Because this is like, oh well.
Yeah.
Because I'm not necessarily breaking anything, and I might just not be happy with how it turned out.
Yes.
I love that.
And then it's just this big weight lifted off you, and it's like, oh well, Or instead of that weighing what if, and it's just all those possibilities that just haunt you. It's like, no, you did it, and you saw what came from it, and now you can go on to the next one, like, without that pulling you back. So that just kind of comes into my mind when something scares me, and it's like, oh, come on, push and do it. I don't know if you know, like, Enneagrams. Mm-hmm. What Enneagram are you?
I forget. I did it years ago, and I'm going to have to look it up again. I don't remember.
Oh, I'm so interested in it. And I'm an Enneagram 7, and so is Luca. Okay. And we're both the enthusiast for life.
Oh, yeah, you are. You both are. I love it.
It made so much sense when we did it, and we were like, we're the same. But it's just like, we are so like driven by passion projects, and we want to get the most out of life. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's just like saying yes to things and yeah, just like living life to the fullest, I think, is our priority. And so it makes our relationship work, because it's like, if he's really busy in a passion project, I'm like, go for it. Like, I know that that's where you find your happiness, because that's the same with me, and he supports me in what I do. And that's just another aspect of how it works so well. But yeah, gaining the most out of life and just doing things out of your comfort zone, or trying new things, evolving in that way, is definitely how you get the most out of life. And that's, my main priority. And I feel like I've noticed that I think my definition of old is when people choose to stop learning. Because it's just, they become closed-minded, and it's like, no, they're set in their ways. And I'm like, oh, you are aging. Or like, now you are stuck in that time or frame of mind. Mm-hmm. And as long as you're opening yourself up to new classes, new challenges, you want to learn a new language, it's like, I feel like you'll stay young and get the most out of life, because you're living all these different dreams. Mm-hmm. And so that's, so when something scares me, I remember what I stand for and what I want, and then I'm like, oh, go for it.
I love that. Yeah, I was actually just at a friend's 70th birthday party, and he is so young. He's like a dear friend, because he feels so young and so alive and so growing, and, working on different projects and learning things. Mm-hmm. That makes so much sense. All right. So now I'd like to ask you, what is your creator's challenge, where my listeners can, whether they consider themselves visual artists or not, how can they have a little sense of play with your world and do something with what they've got in front of them? What's your creator's challenge?
My creator's challenge is to draw from observation. It's, for illustrators and animators, we do cafe sketching, and it's just go to a coffee shop and just draw the people around you. And it's so fun and meditative because you just get out of your head, out of projects, you're very present, and you just get to admire, the people around you or where you're at, and don't be afraid to make a bad drawing. Just kind of play with your different pens and colors, and just kind of collect memories visually. Instead of writing it down, it's like put it in with images, and do that not just with people, but sit outside and draw the plant right in front of you, or really study and admire the colors that the atmosphere has. It's like just being so present and aware of the beauty around you. Again, it's just so meditative. It really gets you out of your head and very present. And I love it. And I have to do it more.
That's such a good one. I look forward to doing that.
I'm excited.
Yeah. And then where can people find you online? I'll have all of your links in the show notes, but is Instagram the best place, or maybe your website? You can talk about both of them?
Yeah. So my Instagram, I have two. One for just all of my art projects. That's at Kaylee_Hawley. Mm-hmm. And then I have my Ducks in a Row business, and that's at Ducks_in_row. And then, my website, and then to meet with me in person, I'm doing that Melrose Trading Post more often.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm very excited because it's just like very close by to where I live, and just having that consistent. It's every Sunday. I don't know how often I'll be able to, because with all the jobs that I have, it's like it's taking one of my free days.
Absolutely.
So it's like, how much energy do I have this week? Yeah, let's do it. But I'll always be posting when I'm
perfect. So people can watch your Instagram to see when they can see you in person.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. It was a delight to talk to you. You're fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
I really appreciate having you on.
Thank you for having me on.
Cheers. Join the community and share your creative challenges on Instagram and Facebook at Creators Cafe by Kika Labs. And also check out my website, kikalabs.com, KIKALABS.com, to sign up for the mailing list so you always know when a new podcast is released, and to check out my coaching and digital courses to help you be a more confident and joyful creator.